Good evening, everybody. Today is Wednesday, September 10th, 2025, and this is night 5 out of 6 for our 2026 budget sessions. In the Nat U Hill room, we have a quorum, so we will get started, even if we are just a little bit behind. But to my right here, we have counselors David Henry, Peter Iverson, Kate Wilt, and Liz Feidel. And we don't have counselors Deckard or Hawk just yet. But again, we will introduce them. And it seems like we have Counselor Hawk walking in the building right now. All right, but we will still go ahead and get started. So the next up is the item 2, which is adoption of agenda. Is there anybody that would like to make changes or wishes to, same thing, wishes to amend tonight's agenda? Nope. Okay. And since we are all here in person, we can do a voice vote to adopt agenda. So all those in favor of adopting tonight's agenda as presented signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. All right. Motion carries. All right. So the same speech that I've given for the previous four nights of our budget sessions. This is not a final decision. Tonight we are hearing departments of Monroe County to present to us, the County Council, their 2026 budgets. And so just want to remind people of that. Each department, when they come up, will be able to sit here in the Nat U Hill room and discuss their budget items. And council will ask questions and can make amendments as well as we feel the need to do so. But again, each department, I'd like to remind everybody, we've been doing a really good job and keeping track of time, and I want to continue the flow of that today. So each department will have has been given a certain amount of time to present, and once your time is up, we will politely say that your time is up so that we can further move along through our agenda here. And also for council to stick to the items that are related, or items that are budget questions related to tonight's budget as presented. So again, this isn't final. However, we do have the public hearing that is scheduled for Tuesday, September 30th at 5 o'clock, and then the final budget adoption, which is Tuesday, October 14th, also at 5 o'clock. So as we have gone over before, we also, before we get started with the department budget hearings, we are going to look to the auditor's office, and I see that we have Ms. Carly Woodruff in, and want to give her an opportunity to do what our auditor Bree Gregory would do, but she is not here. So, Ms. Woodruff.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
If I may share my screen, we've received some requests to show our calculations for how we're coming up with the deficit, so we have that ready to share here. On the screen, you should see a simple calculation that we've been using thus far. This shows the maximum property tax levy that we're allowed in 2026. This is an estimate, but is used based on, or it's calculated based on a state calculation tool. So we'll take the maximum tax levy plus the county major bridge levy, which is outside the max levy, and we'll add in the miscellaneous revenue that has been calculated by departments. The sum of those compared to the requested budget that's in Gateway right now, if you reduce out the requested budget, you're gonna come up with a total deficit for the entire budget of just over 8.1 million. This is a simplified calculation that we've been using. We did do a little bit of a deeper dive, and we created a deep dive calculation for our levy funds. And this is an analysis that takes lines from the 4B and shows you on one spreadsheet where we will probably end up if we adopt the budget as it is right now. So you can see that in general fund, based on what is anticipated for the end of year 2025 cash balance, plus all of that revenue minus the expenditures, if we adopt the levy at 23 million and change. We should end up with about 14 million at the end of 2026. If you follow that down, you'll see that we have some fund balances that are anticipated to end in the positive and others that are anticipated to end in the negative. And this spreadsheet is only showing the levy funds.
Okay, thank you for doing that. Want to look to council to see if anybody has any questions for Ms. Woodruff? Councilor Hawk?
Yes, do you have that in hard copy for us to look at this evening? Or could you get it for us? Have somebody get it for us?
We can definitely get it. It was emailed out earlier, but if you prefer in hard copy, we're happy to do that. Would you like for that for the whole council?
Well,
We can get
when
that.
you say you emailed it out earlier, you mean today?
Yes.
It was an hour ago. It was mailed out. Yeah.
An hour ago. Well, yes, an hour ago. Yes, I would like to see it in hard copy, thanks.
We can definitely do that.
All right, anybody else have any questions related to this item? Okay. Woodruff, did you have more to add to that? Or is there anything else you needed to add?
I'll stop sharing my screen now.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, if we don't have any other questions, we can go ahead and get into our first department budget presentation tonight, which is the Treasurer's Office.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1000-0003, General Fund, with a category requests of personnel, $511,130, supplies, $3,500, services, $59,150, capital is at $0, for a total of $573,780. Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. We have our treasurer, Ms. Kathy Smith, here to present tonight. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. This is a pretty simple budget. I tend to go from the hard auditor's office to the easy treasurer's office. So this is like a win, just only having one budget and it being pretty simple. So I congratulate myself and you guys on that. So what you see here is the minimum pretty much that it takes to collect taxes for the year. Next year is going to be an extremely painful year because there's so many different changes and you know, I think it's only fair to tell you that things are getting more difficult in collecting taxes in that most people either had a mortgage or they didn't have a mortgage. They didn't have a mortgage, they came in and paid once a year with a check, right? Or maybe twice a year. Now, people have multiple mortgages, and so we have to deal with multiple mortgage companies, and if they pay by themselves, a lot of times they pay in partial payments with credit cards or e-checks or on those. So instead of making one payment, they can make up to 26 payments based on their pay cycle or how they do it. So in addition to all those extra payments, if you look around all the new construction, you can see there's thousands of new pieces of property. So what we're looking at, you know, say 5 years ago with the number of tax payments that we took, has grown astronomically. So what we're trying to do is keep it as minimally evasive to the budget as possible, and just adding what we absolutely had to add for all the extra accounting that we have to do now and it's really busy work. It's not necessarily harder work, it's just a lot more work. And so the only other real change is, and Kim, correct me if I'm wrong, you're trying to combine things to make it easier so you don't have a lot of account lines that sound very duplicated. So we really don't have equipment, vehicle repair. What we have is service maintenance and repair equipment. It's a very minimal budget of $600, but I think it's a better choice. They picked it. I think it's a better choice of the language for what it truly reflects. I don't know if you guys have any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for our treasurer? Okay, you're looking at me,
just
I
want-
wasn't sure if you had any
I
questions.
just wanted to make sure that you know that I appreciate you working to to keep this budget very lean again this year, and look forward to working with you to see how we're doing with our revenue because, of course, you'll be the one letting us know if we start running short on what our revenue might be for interest. So
I'm working very hard to keep the interest up. Working with new people, like we've had the credit union added to the list of public depositories because they can be a little more generous with interest. But I'm trying to make sure that loss of interest, I got it up really good last year. I don't want you guys to lose. I know you need that money. So I'm working very, very hard to keep it as high as possible and working with a lot of different companies and community people that work at the banks. And if banks pay a finance tax, FIT. A lot of people don't know that they pay taxes on the money, a different set of taxes, financial institution tax. So, and it costs more for them to have public fund money than it does to have regular money because there's more regulations on it. So it takes kind of like a community partnership with the banks, and we have wonderful banking people here. People have been long-term bankers at German American and First Financial and Chase, just really wonderful people I've known the 20-some years I've been doing finances here at the county. I have nothing but wonderful things to say about them. They all want to be on a team with us. They care about the county.
All right, does anybody else? Counselor Wiltz?
Yes, so it looks like you're requesting an increase in the hours for one employee from 35 to 40?
Yes, one employee, it's because of all the different increase of transactions. It's not an increase in pay as far as per hour. It's just there's many more transactions. And these are not things that part-time people can do. This is the cash book. So we have a very, very small staff. We don't even have a cash book backup person because there's only 4 people in the department. So just from 35 to 40 hours because there's more just transactions.
And what are the rest of the employees at 35 or 40?
2. So right now 3 are at 35 and 1 is at 40. This would be making a second one at 40. Just the cash book manager.
May I ask another question? Thought I had another question. Let's see.
All right, Counselor Iverson?
Thank you for being here. Thank you for your service to Monroe County. You've been here for a long time, like you said, and we're really appreciative of everything you're doing and the institutional knowledge that you bring. My question is your only line in the twos, which is office supplies, which went up by a pretty significant amount. And I just wanted to hear what's going on.
Okay, so office supplies is, it's a loose term. It's actually the equipment and the pieces, I guess I should say, things that you buy from Office Depot that you need to run the department, like envelopes. We do lots of things throughout the year with all kinds of different taxes, but we're very instrumental in snail mail mailing things back and forth. When people are overseas or when people just don't use, older people a lot of times just don't use email. And of course we try to talk them into using email so we don't have to print stuff out and send it to them. We can just send it to them. But a lot of people, because of their taxes, paying their income taxes, they want that piece of paper with that hand stamp on there.
And so can you, as it's related, also talk about in your threes, your postage line, which is pretty high, and there was also an increase there. So your twos are for mailings, and then your postage line is high as well. So
because postage has went up and we mail out thousands and thousands of things every year.
Right.
Like the tax bills, that covers the tax bills. And last year we were short in what we and what we did was we scraped everything we had back into that postage line, so we didn't have to ask you for any more money.
All right.
But postages went up twice in the last 12 months. So.
Questions? TSD, it looks like Counselor Decker is trying to get promoted. Can he be promoted, please? Oh, perfect, thank you. I just had a really quick question. You mentioned earlier that it's becoming a little difficult to collect payments. In a previous life, I used to be familiar with how the county was had partnered up with the bank to collect tax payments. Is that something that is
We still do. I drive to
perfect.
the banks and I pick them up,
Okay.
make it easier for them. And that's very nice of them to do that, but they don't want somebody giving them 26 payments. They only do that during tax season for the people that are basically their customers, but we do it in several different banks. And then I physically drive and pick them up.
Okay.
It's harder on people to come down to the square when we're busy and our office is full because there's no spaces left. And Marty can testify this. If somebody can't get up the steps, they just call us and we'll run down there and pick them up because we really try to be very, very good to all of our people. And if when it's really hot outside, especially in May, and there's only one place really to park, it's very difficult for someone if they're not just in a wheelchair, if they say they're using a cane or they've hurt their foot or, people from Ellisville don't come downtown Bloomington a lot. And so we just want to make sure, especially the only pay once a year, or twice a year people, we want to make sure that we really hold their hands and do a good job with them. The people who pay automatically, many times over, they do pay on computers. And so what happens is we can't, like if you go to Walmart, you spend $1,000. Walmart doesn't get a whole $1,000. They get something less than $1,000, 2 or 3% less than $1,000. We can't do that. So we have to charge $1,000 and then have to have a third party run it through them, and that's how they get their service fee, right? So if a person pays every 2 weeks, it could be a week or 2 weeks before that payment actually comes through. Well, we're showing it paid in our system, but it's not paid in our bookkeeping. So then the next one could come through before the other one's even been credited. So it becomes a cash book nightmare, and that's what we've run into. That's really what we've run into this year. And it's getting worse because younger people are very much used to paying everything online or through their phone applications.
Yeah, that's true.
And I wish we got a cut of that, but we don't.
Yeah.
But it makes more work for us. It's a lot easier to pay 26 small payments than one really big payment.
Yeah. Well, it looks like we are out of time on this one, and we appreciate you doing that and all the many different ways that you take the payments from our county residents. But if we don't have any other questions, I see Counselor Decker is online, and so since we have a member that is virtually, we will do a roll call vote. So may I ask for a roll call, please?
Counselor Hawk?
Yes.
Thank you. Counselor Deckard?
Yes, and I'm sorry.
Thank you. Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor Feidel?
Yes.
Counselor Crossley?
Yes.
Counselor Henry?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 7-0.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank
Good luck
you.
with the rest of your work.
We appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Moving along on the budget train is item number 6, which is the Health Department.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1159-0000 Health Fund with the category requests of personnel at $1,553,039, supplies at $795,202, services at $337,516, capital is at 0 for a total budget of $2,685,759.
Second.
All right. And I see that we have Ms. Lori Kelly here to present. Welcome.
Good evening, counselors. So just to walk you through what we have planned for 1159. So as we're aware, we've transitioned a lot of our positions from the state fund into this local Health Department fund. So we've kept that pretty consistent in the request for 2026. There are a couple of positions that we have not refilled. So those are vacant positions, and we are not going to be filling those in addition to our part-time lines. So looking at just being able to cut some costs there. Move to our supplies. So we've reduced amounts in many of our supply lines and have been able to transition some of those costs over to the Health First Indiana Fund to try to help make up some of the difference there for the additional costs in personnel. Same with service categories, so just gone through and made a lot of reductions to that as well. Looking at one of the service categories, the personnel health care line for $228,866. So that was previously planned to go to IU Health for nursing contract services. So we will be looking at removing that and then or transferring that to be able to provide nursing services in 2026.
Okay. Did you have anything else to add? Okay. All right. And so I'm going to look over here because I already saw a hand that went right up. Counselor Iverson.
Well, first of all, thank you for being here. Thank you for meeting with your two liaisons on this. I think we're really appreciative of a lot of the reductions that you made and in preparation for tonight's hearing. So thank you for doing that. I will note that the 4B on this fund is not looking very healthy at this moment. So we have some work to do in this fund to the tune of a little over $1 million. So council is going to have to do some pretty big work here. And I just wanted to kind of set the table with thanks to the health department for doing the work and making sure that there are reductions here, but also that we're going to have to do a little bit more work here.
Okay. All right. And looking over here, Counselor Hawk, you just keep looking at me. So every time you look at me, I'm going to keep calling you.
I'm sorry.
I like your shades.
Well, I'm sorry, but
I get it.
It's better than having the headache. I'm very curious to see what the outcome's going to be here, because it appears to me that this needs to be adjusted and move this personnel back into the 1161 fund. But I'll wait to see what the liaisons have come up with.
Yeah, Counselor Henry.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Lori. So maybe we can get into some of it. So I think when we moved things out of HFI in here and trying to quickly put out a fire from the state, right? I mean, we had the change in legislation. We didn't really understand what those implications were, other than there were services that we thought we would not be able to provide to persons that couldn't provide documentation of immigration status, and we had to split funds. And we've been at this, how many months have we been in this model of two funds at this point?
I think it's around June is when, May, June is when it first started.
So we have like three-ish months of data. Like, are you seeing personnel spending most of their time, I mean, I don't know how we'd figure this out, but like serving people correctly under the law with, like, if people are coming in and getting services, or you're out testing for mosquitoes or whatever, like, are those people typically Indiana residents or U.S. citizens, or do you have any idea at this point? Because the whole point of moving this out was because HFI couldn't cover certain circumstances, right? So like, what's the office look like? What's going on with the personnel?
Sure. Well, so with our nursing services, for example, I mean, they're not obtaining or asking for that information because they were moved to this other funding. So positions that have invested program supplies with some of those HFI dollars, we're seeing some mixed results. So there are individuals, we do run into circumstances where either someone is not an Indiana resident, or they have not had documentation, and so those individuals are not qualified for those services or supplies under these new
guidelines. So I think that it would just be a matter of what positions can we most easily have fall under the Health First Indiana compared to ones that it's really just going to be very challenging to try to obtain the required documentation or run into scenarios where we're turning those individuals away.
Yeah, and I appreciate that we really did build this on the fly, and this was at the recommendation of county legal, and Mr. Schilling had kind of ideas about how to do this. It seems like 3 months of it already, we can sense that we have outliers, but what we've done is we've budgeted as if, to protect everybody and say, look, regardless of status, this fund is taking care of our whole community. We can't even possibly figure it out when we're at the door. I guess just, it's a very long way of saying what Councilor Hawk said, is that we probably do need to figure out what can move back in HFI. I don't know if there's more creative ways to go at it, and I would be curious what the auditor's office thinks about an account line that we tag or an account line that we fund for those one-off scenarios where we have to provide a service that we can't use HFI for, not the position, but the service offering, right? Like, because it's almost like a cost center model. We'd bill, like that's the one we use for, does that make sense? I'm thinking out loud here in the time we have, just because clearly we got to do something with it, right? I guess the other question I have regarding these is the positions that we moved in that were no longer covered by HFI, right? And that was tobacco and public health preparedness, is that right?
Public health preparedness positions, those have been moved to grant funding.
Which grant? Okay, which grant funding was that?
The COAG.
That was COAG. Okay.
8111. So we have 2 full-time preparedness positions that were moved to the 8111.
So the public health coordinator. Oh, that's right. It's here. I'm looking right at it. Okay, so I will hold back on that comment. But yeah, thanks.
Okay, thank you. And looking over here to my left, if anybody has any questions. Councilor Wiltz?
Yes, thank you. The COAG grant has a huge cash balance. So are there things that it can pay for that it's not currently budgeted for?
So the 2 preparedness positions we're planning on keeping there at least for the next couple of years until we can kind of see how things may or may not change with Health First Indiana. That also will support our school liaison services. So my best thought beyond that would be to use that for nursing services. That could be an alternative.
Let me ask another question. Earlier, it says PHC, the personal health care line, that it was something, I think, that was a contract with IU Health, is that right?
Correct.
And that's going to change.
Correct.
So what does that mean for that line and your requested budget?
So in my mind, it means it would be 0.
We could zero that out.
In my mind.
Okay. Then I think that we would want to consider doing that, right? That's $228,866 that we could zero out right now.
And I would look to the liaisons to.
And I mean, if that's what the department is saying and that's what we're thinking about, I would also reflect back on something that was said earlier, that these funds might also be looked to be transferred into another line for other services. So I think this loss of a contract is so new that we are really scrambling to try and figure out how to provide a statutorily required service. I would be really nervous about zeroing this line out at this moment, simply because we just lost a 60-year contract and we need to provide these services and we are required to do so.
So that's something that you all are thinking through still.
That is something that conversations are ongoing right now. Now, back to what President Crossley says every meeting, we can make a change tonight and it's not permanent. So, we can keep that in our minds as well.
And I'm getting a stern look from Council Attorney Molly Turner King. And it's either that or my readers are
No,
like,
it's not meant to be a stern look. I was thinking.
Fine.
I think for clarity, what I hear Ms. Kelly saying is that the structure, we're still going to have this budgetary need for providing these services, just how it's structured will change. It won't be a contract, but it could be personnel, so it's kind of similar to what I said about the coroner's contract or coroner's budget. His budget has all the personnel lines at 12,000, but it's potentially changing to a contract. So I think the need is still going to be there. It's just we're not sure yet on what category or how it's going to be there. So I would also be cautious of zeroing it out.
So along those lines then, with the coroner, you have just the one budget, one fund. With this department, you have a lot, and we're trying to ease the pressure on this particular one. So is it reasonable to think that you would be looking at other funds to pay for the required services that are lost through this contract?
That we would be looking at other funds? Yeah, the COAG grant would be the next best fund that could pick that up. I do not think that, I would not feel comfortable moving it to Health First funding, just because of, again, we have too many ongoing, like TV cases, for example. There's too many ongoing situations with those nursing services that we would be running into roadblocks to where we could not provide the services.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I'm really, this is unusual, and the health department is unusual, so I grant you that. It's just a lot of different, you have so many grants and so many, different sources, and it's a lot to manage. But we haven't yet sat here and heard from a department that if we look at the 4B, we are $1 million, if I'm correct, that we have to dig out of this budget. I'm just looking for ideas, and time is of the essence. I realize that tonight is not the night we finalize anything, but again, you're way more qualified than I am to know where and how to do that.
Coming up with that amount, I think, is going to be really challenging, and if we move all these positions back to 1161, again, I think also just giving some consideration for the burden that it puts on our employees, having to go through the process of obtaining this verification. How do you navigate those circumstances then when people are upset about why are you asking for that, doing all the internal controls and tracking. So I would hope that we could find some way to kind of lessen that burden as well.
Okay. I'm gonna ask a question, and then I see some hands waving at me, so I'm gonna go there. So yes, Councilor Hawk and Henry and Iverson all are saying right now, and Wiltz, is we got to figure out what to do with this, because I know that we were up against trying to do something that was in a flurry, but now that we are in this budget constraint right now, we have to make do with what we have to do. And so whether that means we have to, unwillingly put those positions back into HFI, and ideally it would be nice to see how we can work with our partners at HealthNet and some other places that would be able to help, that won't turn people away for various reasons. It's a shame we're in this point, but unfortunately, just like some other projects here in the county, this is where we are. The other question, I guess, while we are on this contract, that I kind of just want to ask, since it is in the contract and now hearing that it's not a thing anymore, is why is it canceled? Can you speak to that?
Sure. I certainly don't want to speak for IU Health as an organization, but I think that essentially they are moving into a new model of care, so taking on a regional approach of care. And currently the Community Health Center, some of the other programs there have been covering multiple counties. The nurses have not, because they've been with Monroe County providing the services on behalf of the health department, but the plan and the goal is that to move into a regional hub essentially and covering multiple counties, which doesn't really align with the services that we provide at the health department in just Monroe County.
And then I'll go to Councilor Henry, and then I see Councilor Deckard now has his hand up.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Lori. So I think, again, in the spirit of we're not going to get there tonight, but maybe talking strategically about what has to happen here, given the news and some of the other stuff, is I think the approach, and I think I heard Councilor Wiltz say it, is, and maybe I'll say it my own way, is to the extent that we can move costs into the grants is what we're after first to protect this fund, right? And the local county tax dollars, using everything we can coming in here first, right? So if it means getting creative about that, looking at funds that, I think, and maybe I'll look over at Carly here. The fund that it predates HFI, is that, which is that one again? The one that we used to use for stuff like this, the local public health?
So I believe those are two funds that
Yeah.
were kind of replaced with one. One of them is 1168, which is local health maintenance.
Right.
And the other one is 1206, local health department trust account.
So all of those where we have boluses of funding are what I think we're all looking to go to first to draw down on before we're touching this fund, right? That's the general strategic, I think, goal as I hear it. So I just think as we work on this over the next few weeks, like that's the target. Like how much of that can we move into those spaces, and then what we see what we're dealing with. I think we touched on the clinic a bit, that, and I do think there's kind of as organizations in the community are trying to figure out their strategic missions and how they fit in this new health model, they may figure out a way to answer a request for proposals. I mean, it's nothing for an organization to pivot and go hire the staff you need to go win a contract. I mean, I speak from a little experience because that's my life's work, right? I've been on government contracts for 15 years. You go find your team and you go win the work. And so I do wonder if there's a way to go at a RFP approach again and find a vendor that'd be willing to answer a good RFP or request for proposals with a statement of work on what they can do to succeed IU Health. And that would answer that question basically in 30 days. Once the contract's out and we get an award, hopefully we get people back to work and not have to wait for alternatives there. But I'm on my stump at this point. I do want to zero in on the other piece of what seems to be taking the fund out of balance, which is that supply line, 26, sorry, I got new glasses, this is horrible. 26997, the COVID supply line. So that's the one that does, move us, in 750-ish, 746. What's going on there in that fund again, just so we can understand why that's sitting here instead of maybe one of those other spaces?
Sure. So that was specific to COVID reimbursement dollars. So back when this was prior to my time when that was going on, but some of the money did come in during my time here. So it was basically the state was they were working to help do the billing for that, reimbursing these dollars to local health departments and using the funds, local health departments to use the funds for one-time investments in public health. So that money was appropriated. We'd had discussions in the past, I think even starting last year, about using a large portion of that for a mobile unit, but the money had never actually been appropriated. It was just kind of like hanging out, so we got the money appropriated this year. So we would still like to move forward with using that to purchase a mobile unit.
Can those funds be used for other things?
They're not supposed to be used for ongoing costs like personnel. They're not supposed to supplant local appropriations. So Dr. Box, who was the state health commissioner at that time, submitted a letter out to local health departments with basically just talking about the funding, that it needs to be held in 1159 and to use the money for one-time investments in public health, essentially to help increase vaccination efforts, address well visits, and basic health services.
Thank you, Madam President.
Okay. Counselor Decker has been waiting, and then I'll go to Counselor Hawk.
Thank you very much, Madam President. And again, I apologize for being remote. Are you all hearing me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to say quickly, and also Counselor Henry, my eyes are also doing wild things, so I appreciate you saying that. But I just want to say on this, obviously, we're going to have to be artful in a number of ways to get to goal on every front, both financially and from a service model. And I'm not sure what that looks like, and I don't think we really do know yet what that looks like. So I will say that. And I do agree that, of course, we're not at the end yet. But one thing I do think is it seems like a lot of, and this is just an observation, when we're thinking about whatever's going on with this contract happening, not happening, it seems like a lot of health discussions are, pardon me, a little bit inside baseball. Things that are kind of like in the net of how, I don't know, how boards function and how other things. And if IU Health is going to a regional discussion or regional option, we're part of that region too. And I think somewhere at some point, the public has to know what that means for them in a really clear term. And I have to be honest, I struggle as a county council member that is supposed to know all these things. I struggle to figure out these things myself. And I just wonder if either the Monroe County Health Equity Council, large discussions there, if it's a large discussion with groups like HealthNet or others that where people actually know what those things are more publicly. I just wonder if maybe we need to think about that in some of this process, because I feel like I'm chasing mystery on these lines and mystery on these things and all that. And I don't mean that as a criticism, because you all are in the trenches, but if I can't figure this out roughly, I just think the public can't either. And I think we've spent a little bit too much time talking to ourselves. I don't know, but we've got to figure that out, because again, we hear all the time from people talking about regional healthcare issues, local, and all that. And I don't know, if we don't step in and talk about it, I don't know who will. So anyway, I just offer that thought.
Okay. Counselor Hawk, you had your hand up.
Yes. When I was reviewing this earlier, and I saw that line that said reimbursement, and I don't recall the dollar amount, but it was a hefty amount. Was it 700 some thousand?
It's on the screen.
I'm sorry?
746.
Okay. I was going through what I thought mine. Well, at any rate, what we're talking about, when we get a reimbursement, that means we've already spent the money. And then this is coming back to us to reimburse us for the fact we spent the money. And so I think we need to investigate this further before we think that this money could not be used for whatever we would want to, because we've already spent the money that this reimbursement is for. We don't have to prove that. We have already proven that. So this is dollars just sitting there, it appears to me, that can be used for any purpose necessary for that fund. And why that would be questionable, I don't understand, but I will work at trying to understand it.
All right. Since we have other items that are on the health department, and we're about 35 minutes into, 35 minutes left, rather. Does it, Vital, you can
said
answer
anything yet.
Yep, go for it.
I just am concerned about the regional part as well, which means that we are a part of the region, and I just think we need to really keep that in mind and figure out what that's going to look like. So.
Definitely agree. All right. Seeing no more questions. Just not right now, because it sounds like collectively there's definitely some things that folks want to go back and look at in this. I know I definitely do as well. And that's not just to you, that's kind of thinking about all the departments that have kind of gone through here to go back. So, seeing no questions that we have now at this time, may we please have a roll call vote?
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor Henry?
Yes.
Counselor Hawk?
Oh, what? No. I know I can't say pass, so I'll just say no.
Okay.
We have no answers. Why would we say yes to this?
Counselor Crossley?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
You already voted me.
Dang it. Counselor Fidel?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-1.
Okay. And next up is item B.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1161-0000, Local Public Health Service, with the category requests of personnel at $274,310, supplies at $148,321, services at $391,885, and capital at $0, for a total of $814,516.
Second.
Okay, and what would you like to add to this?
So I don't think there's probably much to add about the personnel lines. So basically what we had in this fund were some of those administrative positions that aren't providing the direct patient care. So that's what we have budgeted there. Keeping a large portion of our program supplies that are related to those core public health services within this fund. That's where those programs originated, so it does make sense to keep those costs there. We've really made some adjustments and some reductions in some of the other categories, but we still have some money set aside for our partnerships. So community partnerships and grants to provide core public health services. You'll see that in the contractual line. And plan to use this fund for employee training and travel as the primary fund for those sources as well. Moved department insurance costs into this fund as well, so that was a new change.
Okay. And I'm gonna start over here to my left to see if anybody has any questions. Counselor Wiltz?
What's the anticipated revenue for this fund?
It should be right at that 814,560.
Right at that, so it's fully budgeted.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Looking over here to my right. Anybody got any questions? Counselor Iverson?
Again, I think a lot of the moves here are pursuant to conversations that we had together, and we're trying our best on this fund to kind of figure out the tea leaves. I don't know if you want to talk more about those tea leaves, or I don't want to put you on the spot. So if you don't want to, that's fine. But we're really in this unique situation where the next 2, 3 to 5 years are really unknown, and we're trying to do the best that we can with the resources we have now.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So, I mean, originally, I think the plan was to be able to use some of our carryover funds, so funds that we haven't used from Health First Indiana that we won't use this year and the year before, to help us kind of keep things moving along over the next couple of years. I'll be honest that I feel like we were in circles with the whole legislative changes, that's really what has caused the issues here. I'll be honest, I felt really, really good going into a budget before we knew that those changes were coming. So that's really the challenge that we're having to try to navigate here. And I'm happy to work with the council on whatever changes that we can make, and knowing that some tough decisions, I guess, will have to be made.
Well, and we appreciate your willingness, and I think you're putting it kindly. The legislative changes and the things that we just don't know have really hurt public health. Public health is really needs certainty. We really need to have supplies in place to address health concerns. We really need to have nurses and other trained professionals in place to address health concerns. And uncertainty just puts a whole bunch of this stuff in limbo, and that's just not good for public health. And so I appreciate your willingness to work with us and the understanding that we're in this tough situation where we have to make hard decisions.
Oh my gosh, I had a brain fart. Councilor Henry.
To be the receiving end of that. Anyway, so I guess, are you hearing from IDOH any conversation about how a fund like this would pick up the slack for funding the governor's new initiative of the Make Indiana Healthy Again? What that, are we hearing anything that might help with adjusting some of that to help deliver these services, or what do you know?
Well, what I know is that the Indiana Department of Health is compiling information from local health departments about how these reductions and how the changes are impacting communities at the local level so that they can provide that information on. There have been surveys, they're gathering information. So I know that they're working actively to try to get these funding levels back up in the future.
Okay, thank you.
I'm gonna ask a quick question and then I'm gonna circle back around. I'm actually surprised Councilor Iverson didn't ask this, since that's been his theme as the training and travel. So it looks like the budget for 25 was 200,000, and it looks like to date we've spent 11,532. You've come down on that travel, but I guess my question to you would be, what types of training and travel do you foresee that y'all will be doing here in the next year?
So we've already made some reductions to really limit it to the scope of what's necessary and required. So that's the same thought that we'll be using for next year. So making sure that we're only going to conferences or training events that actually align directly with someone's position or is required training certifications for their position. So really just trying to kind of streamline that and be cognizant of, making reductions where we can.
Would you be opposed possibly to maybe reducing that a little bit more?
No. I think we're flexible.
Okay. Okay.
So I'd be happy to kind of look at some numbers and look at some of those required trainings that we have been supporting for employees in position and kind of see what room we might have there to work with.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. All right, I'm gonna go to Councilor Wilt, and I think Michelle also had a clarifying question too.
Okay. Looking at the same services category, my first question is, other services, it says something about Fresh Connect, and I don't know what that is. Could you just tell me what that is?
Yes, so this was a program we were actually really, really excited, and it was supposed to start in June, but unfortunately, again, due to those legislative changes, the organization that we were going to be working with no longer felt comfortable moving forward with that. So we are exploring partnerships with other organizations because we would like to get this program out there. It's nutritional support, so essentially we are aligning it to chronic disease, so individuals who have high blood pressure, who are diabetic, and they're also have food insecurity, being able to provide credit cards for those individuals that they can use for fresh fruits and vegetables. We would be loading the card, also obtaining biometric screening data so that we have some program data, but that's essentially in a nutshell kind of what that program is. So it's a nutrition support program.
And then the one right above that that you said was just for working with the community, the 232,000.
Yes, so a portion of that, we'd like to continue with our Health Net Homeless Initiative program. So we're providing some funding to help cover positions, and they're offering screenings and health services at the Wheeler Mission, for example. They do some street outreach, but that's one of the programs in there. There's some money set aside for a hardship fund, so looking at, are we going to continue with environmental, for example, to have hardship funding available for programs, and if there's any new community partnerships that we can work with to address chronic disease and trauma and injury prevention.
I mean, yeah, it's just really tough, and unfortunately, some of these really amazing things might have to wait. I don't know how else to do it. You do seem to have a cash balance in this fund so you could appropriate more than, you could start to spend down that cash balance from previous years. But the way to do that, that would then, you'd have to be looking for stuff to come out of general fund and go in here.
Well, I think it's hard because we still have to also be meeting those core service requirements. So it's, really this balancing act of making sure that we're meeting all of these Health First Indiana core services at the same time.
Thank you.
Okay, and then Michelle, did you want to ask your clarifying question?
Yes, so you mentioned something earlier about the insurance. Are you speaking with regards to the self-insurance?
No,
Okay.
vehicle.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure that, because I didn't have anything budgeted in here for self-insurance, so it's like, that kind of threw me for a second, so.
All right, and I don't see Counselor Deckard has his hand up, so if there's no other further questions on this item, can we please have a roll call vote?
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Counselor Feidel?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor Henry?
Yes.
Counselor Hawk? Counselor Crossley?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-1.
Okay, and next up is item C.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1168-0000, Local Health Maintenance, with the category requests of personnel at $26,913, supplies at $2,000, services at $36,800, capital is at $0, for a total of $65,713.
Second.
Go ahead on this.
Okay, so this is our old state funding, so previous to Health First Indiana. It does fall under the same newly updated code, so that was a big change. Once I learned that, again, that just says that we have those same restrictions in this fund as we do with Health First Indiana. So do have a small amount set aside for part-time. That's really just in the event of some unexpected emergency or need that might come up that we would need temporary or a part-time position to be able to fill. Otherwise, just a small amount in supplies and software. Printing and advertising, the personal health care line in this. So some adjustments would be made with that. Originally, $30,000 was going to be going to IU Health, so that money could be moved differently at this point.
Okay. Anybody have any questions over here to my right? Counselor Hawk?
Yes, the line that I think it's just called services. What's that for?
I'm sorry, what's the line?
I think when you were reading it off, it was just like services or contract or something. And I was looking at it earlier today. I thought, well, what is this? Doesn't say what.
The personnel health care. If that's what you're referring to, the personal health care, that was going to be going, 30,000 of that was going to be going to IU Health.
And so it's not now, so what's going to happen with it?
Well, it could be moved to another line.
So you just said 30,000 was supposed, in item 35 to 10
210, yes.
was supposed to go to IU Health, but because that is no longer a thing, that's, okay. Okay. But because, so, and this is where I would look to Ms. Turner King, because we didn't do anything previously in the first one, since their contract is no more, would somebody be wrong in making a motion to reduce this line item by 30,000?
I guess I have a clarifying question for Ms. Kelly. Is that part of the public health services contract, the $232,000 one?
No, it's not, because we did not receive immunization grant funding this year. At least we have not as of this point. That was supposed to be around $30,000. So my plan was to put this $30,000 in here to make up for that immunization grant, essentially to be able to supplement costs for vaccines.
I think so, at least.
Anybody else have any other questions or suggestions? Okay. All right, well, and not seeing a hand raised via Teams, maybe please have a roll call vote.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Counselor Feidel?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor Henry? Counselor Hawk? Counselor Crossley?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-1.
Okay, and next up is item D.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1206-0000 Indiana Health Trust Fund with a category requests of $61,121 in the personnel lines. Supplies, services, and capital are all at zero for a total budget of $61,121.
Second.
Go ahead.
So this request is to move the maternal and child health coordinator position into this fund for 2026. That should pretty much spend down the entire balance of this fund next year then. So that position is currently providing the tobacco cessation services for maternal patients.
Okay. And Counselor Hawk.
Okay, so we no longer receive dollars for the tobacco cessation, right? And so that position, you're just moving over to this fund since we're not going to be getting that grant money? Is that what you're saying?
So this is remaining, so my understanding of this is just remaining money that the department has had for years that has just been slowly being used. So this, we do not receive money anymore into this fund. We will just be spending down the remaining balance.
And at that point then, since it was a grant position, does that person understand that when the grant goes away, that normally means that the position goes away?
All of our employees are aware, and they sign the documentation that's provided by the county that their position may be eliminated if there is no funding.
Counselor Henry.
Thank you. So I think may is, if that's the word in the document, not shall, right? That's important. And I only say that to say, like, I know we're trying to deal with the fiscal year in front of us, but what do you project out, or have you all at the Board of Health kind of projected out the next few years for some of these positions? Because, I mean, as you just indicated, this is a fund that will drain out. It's not being added to. So whether it's this year or 2 years from now or 3 years from now, like, this fund may drain out to fund that position. Have you all thought about long-range financing within the Board of Health at this point about some of these positions that the board has decided to absorb into the county's funds? I know that's maybe an extension here, but it's where we're heading. Some fiscal year we're going to be asking this question, so I'm kind of curious where we are right now. What's the thought?
So the thought has been to use some of the carryover funds, so the remaining funds from Health First Indiana from 2024 and 2025 to be able to sustain services over time. The stipulation with this program is we would not be able to move it into the Health First just because it is providing those tobacco cessation services, and those funds cannot be used for tobacco cessation right now.
Councilor Iverson?
Do you have the fund balance for this account, or does the auditor?
As of mid-August, it was roughly 96,000.
So we're going to spend this down very quickly. So let's put a pin in this one. We'll need to have a decision or we'll need to have a strategy for this within the next year or two. Year.
Wiltz, did you have a question?
Well, yeah, no, I don't disagree. It's just, it looked like this was moved in here for 1 year to spend it down. I mean, this is exactly the kind of thing I think they need to be doing. So to me, it's like perfect. I don't know how many times and how many different ways we can say, I think that the next few years are going to see us not be able to provide the services in the ways we want to provide them. Because we have other funds that are flush with money that we cannot spend because our hands are tied when we are allowed to spend that money on. And I'm 100% behind that. But at some point, if it's no service at all to anyone, we're going to have to make a really bad decision or difficult choice, I guess.
Yep.
I'm just upset about it. Sorry.
Yeah. Hashtag thanks, Indiana. Somebody should make a Facebook page for that. All right. Anybody else got any questions? Councilor Iverson.
And not to put too fine a point on what Councilor Wiltz was saying, but we are talking here about maternal and child health in a state where maternal mortality is not looking great. In fact, it's getting worse. So there's a lot to do in this state, and it doesn't seem like we're getting a lot of help doing it.
I see another hand up over here. Councilor Hawk.
Right. It appears to me that what the state was trying to say is these other grants are going to be rolled into the Health First. Instead of having a little bit of grant here, a little bit of grant there, they're going to have the one big one. That's what, from what I could hear, the debate back and forth by the state when they were putting this together. And this was not what the state wanted to do. As a reminder, they didn't want to cut this. They had plans of growing this funding. But then when they got their revenue projections, just like when we get ours, and it wasn't what they wanted it to say, they had to make adjustments. So that's where we are, folks.
And no one insisted that they put
we,
restrictions on who you can serve.
The other thing I would like to make it clear is that when we are offered a grant, it is so imperative that we understand what the grant is going to require of us. And if we don't want to do it, we should not accept the grant. And we've been told this even back when Steve Galvin was our council attorney. It was clear. We'll look at that grant, see what it says we have to do. Is that what we want to do? Is that what we can do? And if it's what we can't do or don't want to do, we say thank you, but no thanks.
Is this a situation like that? Because I don't think that's what happened here, anyway.
Oh, I'm just saying that I thought that first of all, I thought that when they took away the tobacco cessations, whatever, they thought it could be made up with this health first. And so that's the reason why she's moving it around. And I get that. It's just, I think we should try to understand why the money isn't coming in like they had hoped.
I'm going to go see Councilor Decker has his hand up, and then I'll come back to Councilor Henry.
Well, I don't mean to belabor points that may not be helpful to us, but kind of listening to the comments, I just want to say that, years ago, when we first began our correction discussion, there were also a lot of folks that were talking at that time about either go mental health or don't do the other. And I can remember in that discussion saying vividly a number of times to former Mayor Hamilton and others that once you start funding something or you start down a lane on a program, you have to be in it and committed to it. And so, Councilor Hawk, when the state started down their health reform and health funding option, the intention was that they were going to maintain some level, do something, literally to get 2 years in and then say, well, we got a bad revenue forecast because we didn't anticipate tariffs. I'm not so sure. I think some of this could have been better planned because the people that actually have to do service and aren't over at Government South in Indianapolis, the people that actually have to do service are now scrambling to figure it out. And the reality is it's not easy to cut things at the local level because you actually see that people have needs and you tend to those needs. So these things are just not extension cords that plug unplug. I think that's convenient when you go work half a year in the legislature and then go home. But here, this is a reality that we'll have to live with. And what will happen, if I may, is groups will have to come in to fill that vacuum. And when they don't fill that vacuum, that service will go untreated. Then that becomes an extensive cost to the taxpayer because that'll show up emergency room, you name it. So we're going to pay for it one way or the other.
Let's bring that right down to what we have promised or at least planned to provide for government services before we started looking at our numbers and we thought, whoa, now we have to cut. Does that mean we're the bad guys? Or does that mean the numbers just are not going to let us do maybe what the big plan would have been?
And I'm going to go to Councilor Henry like I was intended to.
Thanks, that's okay. I appreciate the excited utterance. I agree with my peers up here. This is not happening in a vacuum. I just want a point of clarification. The reason why the tobacco cessation is now in county dollars is because it was something HFI funded and we moved it in there. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so just to be very clear that we were committed to that at the state, and then the state changed its mind for reasons. And we obviously are trying to maintain that service here at a local level. It's something the board decided to try, and we were trying to fund it as best we could because, as Councilor Decker just mentioned, we just can't start and stop at the whims of people that are not using evidence-based solutions to do public health. And I think if for those that complain about mental health in the community, this is another fine example. We've been battling 40 years of whataboutism from the state on this, and the end product is what we see in communities all over the state of Indiana, not just downtown in Bloomington, of people suffering from mental health concerns that are no longer funded by the state government. And so that's just, it's a remarkable place that you're in. You are in a frontline position on this stuff, and thank you for tolerating some of the speechifying here on this evening. But I'm glad we were able to sustain this program a little longer while we try to figure out next steps with the resources we have. Thank you, Madam President.
Yep, thank you. And again, #thanks Indiana. All right, so since we don't have any other questions on this,
She's coming.
may we please have a roll call vote?
Counselor Feidel?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor Henry?
Yes.
Counselor Hawk?
Yes.
Counselor Crossley?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor Decker?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
All right, and it looks like we have the last item on the health department's budget is item E.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 4906-0000, Public Health Emergency Fund, with the category requests of personnel $0, supplies $10,000, services $10,000. Capital is at $0 for a total budget of $20,000.
Second.
All right, and Ms. Kelly, what else would you like to add to this?
So this is old local health maintenance funding, so 1168. So this was created years ago to have money appropriated and available to be used in the event of a public health emergency. And so that's essentially why my understanding of this funding. I think, as has been discussed previously tonight, this now falls under those same restrictions, so I'm not sure how beneficial it may or may not be in the event of a public health emergency, depending on what that is. But
All right, I'm gonna look to Councilor Henry first.
I feel as old as this account line because this unfortunately dates back to my time in the department. So a lot of what I recall using this for had to be like if we had to pay for services to isolate an individual that had, say, tuberculosis that was not cooperative with isolation and quarantine. That's a really old story Jeff Cockrell and I worked on 18 years ago around here. So I guess that's the question. Like, I mean, the uses of it. Have you identified uses for it? Would it be for things like tuberculosis for Indiana residents? I guess that's kind of where we are with it, right?
yes, that's essentially kind of where we're at. Yeah, so what would fall into that category?
All right, anybody else have any questions over here? Councilor Hawk?
Well, I'm just saying, well, let's say if someone came from Illinois because maybe they're not giving them their public health services, so they go, well, let's go to Bloomington, we can get it there. Is that what we want to have happen? Whatever. Anyway, thanks, Bloomington.
I think to protect local public health, that's exactly what I would want to have happen.
Madam President.
Yes,
right,
Councilor
yeah.
Henry.
I'll give the use case for when we used it. I mean, we had an instance where an individual in the community, this was like 2006 or so, had drug-resistant TB, or what was thought to be drug-resistant TB. They were unable to self-isolate and quarantine because of home situations. The county paid to put them in the hospital until they cleared sputum, right, to show that they weren't there. During that, it was discovered that the person had a warrant for their arrest in Florida. So to answer the counselor's question, yeah, they weren't a resident of Bloomington, but they were a vector in the community that could spread a disease. And that was, to Councilor Wiltz's point, that it doesn't care what state your driver's license from.
They're here
and
now.
so that was the point of that behavior years ago. It's just now we have a restriction to ask papers, please, on the disease, and that's kind of intriguing. But we're off the rails here. But Madam President, I just wanted to be clear on it. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna look, no, I don't, nope, no sorry. I'm gonna look over here to my left to see if anybody has any other questions or comments. All right. Again, hashtag thanks Indiana. All right, with that being said, may we please have a roll call vote?
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor Henry?
Yes.
Counselor Hawk?
Thanks, Bloomington. Yes.
Counselor Crossley?
Keep this.
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor Deckard?
Yeah.
Counselor Feidel?
Yeah.
Motion passes 7-0.
All right, thank you. And I just want to say, and I know we have Miss Lisa Robinson, one of the board members here as well. I appreciate all the hubbub and the roller coaster movement that hashtag Thanks Indiana has given us right now, and I appreciate the discussion that obviously is being had. Like, this is not an easy job, and so disease knows no form or boundary or status or whatever the case is, much like has been discussed. So we appreciate all the things that you all are trying to accomplish. Again, we know that coming back to the larger budget topic at hand, there's some things that we need to finesse, and I know that your liaisons are on that with y'all. So I appreciate you sitting here and going through this discussion with us. And now you get to go home.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you. May you have the night you deserve, which is a good one. All right. That being said, we are 19 seconds under. And so I do think that at this time, it is much warranted to have a little bit of a recess right now. And I'm going to say we come back at 6:40. So, because I know y'all never come back on time when I ask. So if we could come back at 6:40, and then we can finish out the evening and maybe have a little bit of daytime left to get to enjoy. So again, come back at 6:40 and we will be back. Thank you. So we are going to go ahead and get started and jump back into some of the final items that we are going to go through on budget. And next up on the agenda is the, I was wondering where that came from. It sounded like a slow bird. All right. So next up on the agenda is the auditor's office.
That's going to be on the record.
Yep.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1000-0002 General Fund with the category requests of $1,122,171,000 in the personnel line, $0 in the supply lines, $133,000 in the services line, and $0 in the capital, for a total of $1,225,171.
Second.
You said 225.
I'm sorry, let me amend that for a total budget of $1,255,171.
Now second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. And I know our auditor is virtually, but we have Carly Woodruff here. And so I'm just gonna look to see who would be able to present. And it looks like Carly is smiling, so tag, you're it.
All right, so we have our general fund budget here. We tried to keep it pretty flat. We did implement the salary changes that were suggested. We did increase postage just a little. We do pay for the postage for the claims countywide, and we did have to transfer some appropriation into those lines this year. So we'd like to increase that by about $2,000 to be able to support the expenses associated with mailing those claims out.
Thank you. And see a hand raised, Counselor Iverson.
Let's start in your ones. Am I addressing this to, I guess, to you or?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. That was confusing. All right, the part-time line, that's been pretty consistent for the past 3 budgets. How many part-time employees do you have in your office?
We have 1 part-time employee.
Okay, all right. Thanks.
Anybody else have any questions for the auditor's office? So I have a quick question, and then I'll go to Counselor Fido. You said that y'all increased for postage and you do claims. Could that mean that other departments that also possibly do claims, could they run postage through you all as well?
They don't have access to our postage meter code, so any postage that is paid for by our office is run by our office. Now, if we have another department that submits a claim and those checks do need to be mailed out, we would mail the claim out on behalf of the departments.
Ah, okay, that makes sense. Okay, thank you. And then Counselor Fido.
So bear with me if I've not been here before and understand what this is for, but what is the contractual in the 3,000 or 3006 line? What is that for?
We have multiple contractual vendors. One of them is TMA, and they will investigate nationwide tax credits and deductions that are basically duplicated or not eligible for the person who's applied for them. And if they find that somebody has applied for a deduction that they should not have, then we pay them 30% of that amount that we recoup, and the county gets to keep the remainder. So the more that we spend in that contract, the more the county gets.
I see.
And does anybody else have any questions? Counselor Hawk?
Just as a reminder, the revenue that comes in for that is budgeted in another line, another fund. When we get there. Correct?
Yes, that is.
Auditor's ineligible deduction fund.
Yes, and I apologize. I can go further into other contracts that we have. We have a Hartman and Williams contract that is for our gap compilation that is required of us by the state. We also have Sidewell, and they deal with the parcel fabric integration. And then the last contract is going to be Baker Tilly. They're assisting us with ARPA regulation, making sure that we're staying compliant there. Right now, the majority of that contract is budgeted in the ARPA fund, but we wanted to make sure not to over-obligate that project, so the auditor was able to move some of that into their budget if we were to exceed what is appropriated in ARPA.
So the FSG is not funded in this line at all?
I don't believe so.
FSG is through the council's budget. Council,
And commissioners, because I think they have a contract for bond purposes.
okay, okay. So it's budgeted in two departments, us and commissioners. Got it. Counselor Iverson.
You have a new account line in 17793 for an alphabet soup. But it's for GASB and GAP. GAP. So first of all, what is that line? And second of all, why is that important for the county to have this supplemental?
Don't quote me because this is more in Bree's wheelhouse, but I believe this is a supplemental paid out to the auditor for getting the gap compilation together. Again, this is not my wheelhouse, so if I have misspoke here, I'm sure Bree would be happy to follow up with a correct answer to that.
That sounds accurate to me, and this is important for us to have accurate books.
Yes, and there are certain parameters that Monroe County meets as to why we need to file a gap report. I believe it deals with size and.
What I was going to say is, for 2025, there was a change in, I believe, a statute or something like that, where the auditor can only receive a supplemental with regards to being the clerk for the council, and that maximum was $2,500. So in order to keep her in parity with the clerk, council made a decision after budgets had been approved to create a line called GASB Gap Supplemental. So the original amount was in the clerk's supplemental part of $5,000, but then once the year started, it was divided up. So you don't see it as the adopted amount, but it was in-house transferred. And this was a decision in order to keep that $5,000 in parity with the clerk, who also receives a supplemental for her additional duties throughout the year with the voter registration as well as clerking, different, excuse me, along with the election fund and voter registration.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? Nope. Counselor Hawk.
So does that show when you're looking at the salaries, does that show that the auditor receives whatever it shows on the salary line, and then this is a supplemental? Does it show that way? So that if the public wants to say, how much does the auditor make? What's her salary? Would that show up? So it would.
Yes, we have it set up in payroll so that she receives her salary amount, and then the supplementals come out of these two different lines. So it is set up that way through AOD payroll.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Seeing none, may we please have a roll call vote?
Counselor Hawk? Counselor Crossley?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Counselor Feidel?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Okay, next up is item B.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1181-0000, Plat Book Fund, with a category requests of personnel at $0, supplies at $500, services and capital each at $0 for a total of $500.
Second.
Okay, and this is a pretty simple budget, but what would you like to add to this?
I just want to note that this is a record-keeping fund. We do bring in money by charging legal description, deed, and plat fees of $10 per item.
All right, any questions? Councilor Hawk?
Yes, can you share with us what the balance is in there right now? Because we used to try to put other things in that fund. So does it have a low balance?
Right now, the cash balance is just over 80,000. I believe that money is being reserved to digitize some of our records.
Over here to my left, see if anybody has questions. All right, anybody else? All right, and seeing none virtually, may we please have a roll call vote?
Counselor Hawk?
Yes.
Counselor Crossley?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Counselor Feidel?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
All right, next up is item C.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1216-0000, Auditors Ineligible Fund, with the category requests of personnel at $82,353, supplies at $21,000, services at $138,500, capital at $0 for a total budget of $241,853.
Second.
All right, and what would you like to add to this?
This is our auditors ineligible fund that is used to, we receive that money in the TMA and our property side through investigative work, fines whenever those deductions are applied that should not be applied. And again, we have the contractual line in here that does share the expenses of TMA and other contracts.
Okay. All right. Councilor Hawk?
Okay, I'd like to know the balance and how much the last year's revenue was in there, because I thought we believed that this revenue was going to be coming down over time. At first, there was a lot more because there were more people that were not aware of what the rules were. That's a nice way of putting it. But so I'm just wondering how much of this has been spent down and where we are now.
The current cash balance is just over $504,000. When we started 2025, the cash balance was almost $268,000.
Oh, but right now it's over 504,000. Thank you.
So,
I'll come back to Councilor Wiltz, but I saw Councilor Deckard had his hand up.
Yeah, I don't want to interrupt the train of thought, but I'm just looking at that contractual line, and it looks like we had a big spike was it 2 years ago? We had a big spike in the budget for 2 years ago, but it looks like the spend is lower, and then it looks like we went down. And I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just trying to figure that out a little bit more on contractual.
We typically spend out of one fund for all of our contractual expenses and then switch over to another fund. So whenever you can look at contractual expenses, you'd have to look at both funds together.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Counselor Wiltz.
So I'm wondering if then more of the contractual could be moved to this fund to alleviate that line in the general fund.
Even if it's only for 1 year, and spend it down.
Yeah.
It does make sense. I can consult with the auditor. I do believe that this fund is under her. I can consult with the auditor.
Okay.
Should we just put a little pin in?
Yep, I'm writing it all down.
Okay, thanks.
So the idea is to potentially move the contractual, which is 3000006. 30006. No. We're moving from general though. That would be from general into this particular line item. Okay. Okay. So I'll make a note of that.
Suzanne?
That one is in contractual, and the general is 125. Yep, 125,000.
And I did.
No, go ahead.
I did just receive a note from the auditor that we can move some of our contractual expenses into this fund, but the funding is slowing down, so we do want to be aware of that.
Okay, but council, I think I was Councilor Hawk that said that, but even if we did it for a year and possibly move it back for 27, that's something that would help with that balance there. Okay. I think, yes. I thought I saw Councilor Deckard had his hand up.
I did, and I don't know if this is germane here, but it could be for further consideration. I know that the question about FSG a second ago, where that was divvied up, it was commissioners and council, if I heard it right. I just think because long-term finance has, I believe, treasurer as an ex officio and auditor as an ex officio, and everybody's kind of using from that bucket. I think at some point, having that expense divided among the four entities, if another's eligible, I don't know. But the reason being is I think that keeps everybody engaging that service and then invested in it. And then if they decide they don't want that service, it's not just council using it or commissioners using it. I don't know. That's a long-term thought. But to me, dividing that up among people that actually use it might be a good apportionment of the cost.
Okay. Does anybody have any? Councilor Fido.
So I wondered about the training and travel, 30028. I see that looking in the previous year's expenditures, it hasn't come close to this amount that's being requested. Except in 2024, but not 23 and 25. True, but I just noticed it. Yeah.
So, Ms. Woodard, do you have anything to add to that?
We typically try to utilize the other funds that are available for training and travel. I can definitely talk with the auditor about her willingness to reduce this.
All right, does any, Counselor Wiltz?
I was just looking to Counselor Iverson.
I was not wanting to speak. I was getting ready to vote. I thought that's where we're.
But I'd like to make a motion to go ahead and de-appropriate line 30006, General Fund Auditor. I know we're not there,
Okay, you're throwing me there. Okay.
but de-appropriate that whole line by down to 0, and then increase the one, I guess it's not de-appropriated because it's not really appropriated, but you know what I mean. And then increase the same line in the auditors ineligible by 125,000.
Second, and
That makes sense?
point of order or
Yes.
clarification, do we need to open the previous budget to make this amendment?
Yes.
We do? Okay. In that case, may I offer a friendly suggestion to your amendment?
Yeah, take it over.
That we open for discussion and review Fund 1000-0002 to accomplish your motion?
Second?
Would the cleaner way be for Counselor Wiltz to withdraw her motion and then Counselor Iverson?
I think we should do them separate because as I'm going back and looking at your
Yeah,
motion,
I agree. Yeah.
you said the same line in the auditors ineligible by 125,000, and you're talking about training and travel.
I was talking about training and travel.
I'm talking about line 30006.
Okay, that's where we were talking training
But
and travel.
regardless, I'm going to withdraw my motion and let Counselor Iverson take
I'm
the
also going to
reins.
withdraw my motion, and I think, Madam President, in order to keep this train moving, that we get through all of these budgets here for the auditor, and if we have time, then we can open up the previous, because we have to open up 2 budgets to do this.
Yes.
So
Well-
we've got one open now.
That's what I was gonna say. You've got the auditors ineligible open now. Make the change now of what you want it to say.
And with 125 in the contractual line, right? Council, I move to set line 30006 contractual to be an additional $125,000 for a total of $250,000.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to increase this line item in the ineligible fund to that amount. Is there any further discussion? All right, and again, I think the idea of doing this is because of the balance that is in this account, and then we'll go back. So, all right. I was gonna ask, I was about to say all in favor, but then I realized we can't because I looked at Counselor Decker's face. So in that case, can we please have a roll call vote?
It's a roll call vote on the amendment.
Correct.
So read this side first.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Counselor Feidel?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor Crossley?
Yes.
Counselor Hawk?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
So that
Okay.
motion carries.
So that motion, okay, so then rereading the totals for auditors ineligible. Personnel is 82,353. Supplies is 21,000. The services is 263,500 for a total budget of 366,853. Now the vote.
Okay, and can we please have a roll call vote for the overall?
Counselor Crossley?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Counselor Feidel?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor Hawk? Thank you. Motion passes 6-0.
Okay. And then do you?
We're going to go backwards, yeah.
Yes.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1000-0002 General Fund for an amendment.
Second.
Okay.
All right, Council, I move to set line 30006 contractual to 0.
Council Hawk, I heard you, but it wasn't on camera or on microphone.
Second.
Okay, thank you. All right, we got a motion and a second to reduce this line item to 0. And again, for those that might watch this later, we increased this in an eligible fund and then just went back to open it up to decrease this to 0. So a clean move here. All right, any further discussion on this item? All right, seeing none, may we please have a roll call vote? Oh, before we do, our new total.
We no, because we need
You need to
vote on the amendment.
vote on the amendment first.
And then do
I'm just moving ahead. All right, so can we please have a roll call vote on the amendment?
Counselor Iverson.
Yes.
Counselor Deckard.
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz.
Yes?
Counselor Feidel.
Yes.
Counselor Hawk.
Yes.
Counselor Crossley.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Okay, and now can we have a new grand total?
Yes. In the Auditor's General Fund Personnel, $1,122,171. No supplies, a new services total of $8,000, no capital, with a new total for that budget of $1,130,171.
Okay, thank you. And with us doing a few little housekeeping things here, that is
Nope, we need to vote.
Oh, hey, yeah. Oh, that's right. That's right. All right, so can we please have a roll call vote?
Counselor Wiltz.
Yes.
Counselor Hawk.
Yes.
Counselor Crossley.
Yes.
Counselor Iverson.
Yes.
Counselor Deckard.
Yes.
Counselor Feidel.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Okay, thank you. Now we are done with this item. So we thank the auditor's office. And Carly, you did a wonderful job. All right, next up, which is the final budget item of the night, is our council office.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1000-0061 General Fund with the category requests of personnel at $374,071, supplies at $1,350, services at $350,728, and capital is at $0 for a total budget of $726,149.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. I'm gonna look to Miss Kim Schill to tell us about the council budget.
Thank you, Council. So earlier this, August, so I believe, we had a review of this budget. And so based on what you guys suggested, I reduced and removed in the services category the amount in that. So I changed that to 0. And then what I'd like to do then as well, we had always in the past had to pay for the postage with regards to anything Sophia Travis. So with the auditor's office now paying for all of those claims, because everything's now going through claims, I'd like to reduce that line down to 0. I would also like to, we have $100 in the legal notices. That was being used prior to us being able to use Facebook and also posting things better on our website. So we would use a legal notice in the papers to say, hey, Sophia Travis grants are, starting. Now we're utilizing the Facebook, and we're doing a kickoff meeting, which we've done that 2 years now, and that seems to really, we've gotten the word out, and people are doing that. So we have not used that legal notices for a couple of years now, so we could reduce that down to 0 as well. I know that there was talk about reducing the BEDC amount. If you do choose to move forward, the dues for that for next year is $5,925. So I would like to recommend to reduce that line to 5,925.
Okay.
My one last thing, which it's totally up to you guys. There was a request to have the Sophia Travis grant increased to $250,000. The growth that we would have done normally would have been at $181,000. So that's the numbers there if you wish to continue with that or not. I'll let the council talk about and figure that out. But that's my only recommendations as of now, and I'll gladly go with whatever you guys decide.
Okay, well, I appreciate that, and thank you for giving us the updates on the reductions. So we appreciate that. Council, do you have any questions? Councilor Decker, we will go to you since I saw your hand go up first.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the explanation here for items. I'm not quite ready maybe to make a move officially here on this, but a couple thoughts I have around line 331, the Sophia Travis grant dollars, and 33032 BEDC dollars. I think I understand rationale for action on both lines. Pardon me, I'm losing my voice. But I think a middle of the road kind of approach here may be a little bit more advisable as we figure out this budget. The move beyond 181 to 250, while always will be needed in the community, I'm not sure that is a thing that we can get to. And so I might be looking for a compromise number that doesn't quite go to that $250,000 there. At the same time, I don't know on the BDC line that we necessarily, because of the financial circumstances, need to take that just down to the membership level. And so there may be a medium approach there as well. And I just kind of throw that out to council as kind of where my thoughts are at this point.
Okay, thank you. Councilors, I'll go down the line here. Councilor Feidel, and then I'll go to Councilor Wiltz.
So I too am concerned about the BEDC. I see that we have quite a long history of being at the 35, well, at least a few years from what I'm seeing here. These are the number.
Budgeting it, but it hasn't been paid.
Oh, I see. Well, it looks like it was paid in 2023, and then this shows was paid, right? Expended in 2023. Am I looking at that right?
It wasn't expended back then, so I don't know what that's about.
I want to know what really happened.
Anyway.
So anyway, I think BEDC is very valuable. I have some history besides this council with BEDC, and I think that they do a great job working with businesses to come into our community and provide jobs and that sort of thing. So I would be remiss in not mentioning I'd like to keep it.
Councilor Wiltz.
So both I want to comment on both Sophia Travis grant line and BEDC. I do not think that, given our situation and our needs, dire needs to make cuts, that we can have Sophia Travis grants increase as much as we would like. I think we should return to the normal pace of increase, which would be the 181. And I think for BEDC, my intent when working on the tax abatement and including a payment to BEDC, part of those terms, was to then take it out of our budget because it has been so controversial, and knowing that we are looking to cut things. So my intent was to cut it down to just what our, just our dues, the 59.25. I didn't know the total, but, and it's not because I don't support BEDC. I fought for this to put it in place. I 100% support it. I just, conscious that we need to make cuts just like we're asking everyone else to.
Well, and I was going to say real quick, not so much controversial in terms of who BEDC is, because, I think it's been controversial in the way that council has had it budgeted and how it has been stifled to not been paid due to opinions from other folks here. So none of us on this side of the dais, but maybe up there. But that being said, so not controversial in our thought process, because I do think that all of us definitely support the BEDC. And I know your idea when we were going through the abatement was to be able to kind of negotiate that part into it. So, yes, Councilor Vital.
So I would like to know, I remember the abatement and I supported that very well, but I would like to know when that becomes effective. Is that for next year's budget? Would the abatement be paid then, paying that amount in 2026, or do we still need to pay this until the abatement kicks in? When does the abatement, the 30,000 or 40 or whatever it was, kick in?
The abatement starts in 2026, but I do think I would look to council, and if Ms. Turner King doesn't have that information, we should ask Mr. Cockrell about the exact timing. But it looks like she's looking stuff up frantically. Not frantic, fervent. She's fervent. I'll go with that.
I'm not seeing the date in the tax abatement or the resolution, and I keep looking. I do know Mr. Cockrell's out of the office until Monday, and so I'll keep looking, and if not, I'll ask him on Monday and get back to you.
All right. Does anybody else over here? Councilor Iverson?
I'm going to put in my quick 2 cents on both of these topics. We cannot talk about Sophia Travis service grant without talking about Cheryl Munson. If she was sitting here, I'm sure she would have said we need to do everything we can, particularly given what's happening in our economy. And so I, at the same time, am really worried about the numbers presented at the top of this meeting. And so I think we retain the spirit of what Councilmember Munson would want to do, at the same time understanding the realities of where we're at by keeping with the 4% maximum levy growth quotient in this fund. Once we return to healthier economic times, I'd love to push the gas pedal on this. In terms of BEDC, I certainly want to defer to Councilmember Deckard on this, as he is the liaison to that organization, and I certainly think that he's got his pulse on that pretty well. So if Councilmember Deckard has a compromise number in mind, it would be a good time to utter that. However, if not, I can come up with one as well.
Thank you. The only thing that I would add to the conversation, as I've been on council now for about almost 4 years in December, and so times fly when you're having fun. And I've been fortunate enough to be on Sophia Travis that entire time, and I chaired this committee as of now. And so we haven't heard our presentations yet, but I can only imagine that the dire need from inflation and all the other things that have increased, we will hear those in those budget presentation or in those proposals that we'll hear here soon. I will take Councilor Deckard up to task and trying to figure out a compromise, because I do recall us trying to think how we could get to that level, or try to, I know we do the quotient levy, we try to follow that every year. But I would like to see how we could do that also at the same time, knowing that we also are asking other departments to make sure like how they can cut and do certain things as well. So this isn't fun for any of us, including, in our backyard with our council budget. So I think I'm willing to look at some things here, and want to go. I hear what people are saying. I really would like for us to see how we could do that. Heck, I would really like to see how, in the spirit of collaboration, not certain how this would happen, how we could put grant funding together with other entities as well. So I think that's something that we can talk about for future years. But for now, in 26, I'm willing to kind of go back to the drawing board and think what would be, if we can increase it, or if we still go with the growth quotient, which is the 4% this year, which is the 181. So willing to think about that. And I see Councilor Deckard's hand is up again.
Yeah, Madam President, if you would be willing, I since we do have to come back to several different budget lines, I specifically would like to do some further homework on those two line areas, bring it back to a public meeting, and then I would be happy to offer that motion for both lines on some either compromise, or if someone wants to divide the question, but I'd be happy to do that so that we're moving it expeditiously.
Yep, I appreciate that. And again, everything we do tonight is not final. All right. Are there any other questions related to the council budget as presented?
Oh, no, it's on the first two, the zeros.
Oh, yes, but we do have some amendment. Yes. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Councilor Iverson.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right, council, I move to set line 30800 postage to $0.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. And again, this was something that Michelle has suggested to us. So we are thankful for that suggestion there. Every little bit helps. So any other further discussion on this item? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor Crossley?
Yes.
Counselor Hawk?
Council Hall?
Okay.
You gotta say yes or no for the record.
Thank you. Counselor Feidel? Motion passes, 6-1.
No, 5-1.
All right, and my final motion of the night is to set line, or of this budget, is to set line 32005 legal notices to $0.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. And again, that's what was discussed earlier. Are there any other further discussion that is needed on this item? Salud. All right, seeing none, may we please have a roll call vote?
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Counselor Feidel?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor Hawk? Counselor Crossley?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-1.
Okay. And I don't see any other oh, hey, Counselor Wiltz has her hand waving.
I totally will respect Counselor Deckard's wish to do more homework and come up with numbers. I would encourage us to remember that time is of the essence. I know we're not finalizing things tonight, but after this week, we really do. We have to take action on these things that we've just talked about, and we're just setting ourselves up for a really long night ahead at a different time, because we have pushed so many things off, and I'm just expressing that makes me a little uncomfortable, and I hope that we can be really expedient with decision making and then motions and voting, because we'll have a lot of it to do since we put so much of it off.
Understand? Yes, Counselor Hawk.
Following along with that, I think we need to look at the big ticket items, big, because we're not going to fix this with $20 here or $1,000 there. And nobody likes to make unpleasant decisions. But that's what we get paid the big bucks for. We've got to do it.
I don't know if it's big bucks. But yes, absolutely. So again, as we hear Councilors Hawk and Wiltz, definitely, I think we all share that same sentiment. So I guess the task for all of us is, after tomorrow's our last night of budget. We really got our work cut out. So any extra time that we have or don't have, I would highly recommend us getting that extra time and really kind of going back at looking at each and everything that we have discussed, talked about, and really trying to look at some of the big items that could could cut down. So yes, I almost called you Counselor Michelle.
That's okay. So just as a reminder, yes, we do have a meeting tomorrow. That has typically been a longer meeting, and we've always had time to be able to go back and open and talk about budgets and this kind of thing. With that being said, we do have a meeting on September the 16th. It's a regular council meeting. And so we can also address some of those concerns at that September 16th meeting, which following tomorrow's meeting, we are going to, with the help of the auditor, give you an update of where we stand after all of these budget sessions. So we'll do that. And then hopefully you guys can make some of these hard decisions at the September 16th meeting. Because we then have to roll everything into Gateway the 17th, which is the next day. So we have to have some decisions by the 16th.
All right, and I see Counselor Decker has his hand up.
Thank you very much. I want to add to the hard decisions that we have to make is I think that the council has to determine if the resolution on minimum balances that we passed with those numbers at 23 million or between 15 and 23 million, if we can continue to afford that when that was passed under a different iteration of how things function. A couple of counselors have heard me say this more than a few times. We've got rainy day funds that we've set aside for things. I'm not sure what qualifies as raining, but we have those, right? We've been through a pandemic. We had those. On top of that, we've got these high minimum thresholds. And I know that according to good housekeeping rules, that means that we feel really good about all this pad. But the issue is we're starting now to get into cuts that are now beginning to eliminate services. We're having debates over what this is and what that is. And I don't know that anyone in the community subscribe to their dollars to make government a bank. You know, the state may have the leisure to hold on to dollars, but I don't think a lot of counties do. And so you got to ask yourself after a while, if you're making a rainy day and a pad for your rainy day and a pad for your general budget, what are you doing there? Are you running Old National Bank or are you running a government? And I think that we have to have a serious talk about that because it would be nice. It'd be nice to do that. But you can't say, I cut this service so that I feel better about my ledger, or conversely down the road, I went to people for more tax dollars so I feel good about my ledger. And I say that with all due respect. You just can't have that conversation with a straight face from the Village Inn to the east side of Bloomington. So that has to be part of this discussion because I think that's flying past us.
Yeah. And I just also want to remind us, we have one more item left for council and we need to vote overall. But before we do that, we'll need to get a new total.
For the county council's general fund budget, personnel, $374,071. Supplies, $1,350. Services, a new $550,000 for a total budget of $725,971. Can't talk tonight.
Okay, and so that we've all heard our new grand total, and so may we have a roll call vote?
Counselor Crossley?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Counselor Fidel?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay.
Just to note for the record, Counselor Hawk left the meeting.
All right, and next up is the last item, which is item B.
Council, I move to open for discussion and review Fund 1186-0000 Rainy Day Fund, with a category request of $0 in the personnel line, supplies at $1 million, services at $1 million, capital at $1 million, for a total budget of $3 million.
Second.
All right, thank you. We got a motion and a second. Michelle, what do you have to add to this?
This is what we call rainy day, which is our savings. We have budgeted per recommendation from our financial person, FSG, to set aside at least $1 million in each category in the hopeful not to be used, state of emergency, when we have used all of our other funds with regards to a disaster or an emergency that has occurred into the county. So this is just being budgeted as a precaution for a what if it happens kind of scenario.
Okay. Am I mistaken? Because I'm looking at this now. I thought because of the tornado that we had earlier this year, that emergency management dipped into.
Nope.
Oh.
We had it ready, but they were able to utilize all of their funds.
Oh, okay. Good job.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Anybody else have any questions on this item? Counselor Wiltz.
What's the cash balance on this? Like, what do we have in here?
I was thinking it was around 10 million, but
The current cash balance is $10,177,000.
170 what?
77.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, that is 117.
117.
My apologies.
117.
Got it. Okay. So we have 10 million in rainy day, and I think that's a good thing. Think about, I know that in the past, we have used it, in fact, the line's still there, for paving. I think very healthy rainy day fund. So I still am very much in favor of trimming the current budget. I like the idea of cash balances being, in place for after we've tried all the other measures. But thank you for the balance.
So, could I ask?
Yes.
So I wonder if there's a way to find out what other counties in Indiana might be doing, if they have a rainy day fund based on the size population we have, or that sort of thing, or the size budget they have, or maybe both. Is there a way to figure that out?
We could definitely inquire with other
That would be a
auditors.
good metric to look at. What are other counties doing, right? I mean, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Are they keeping 10 million around, or how are they thinking about that? Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have any other questions? Counselor Iverson?
I feel like I need to speak. This is a very healthy balance, and we've already heard voices saying that we are supposed to keep this for an emergency rainy day, and some people feel like it's raining. And so we need to take all that into account as we move forward. But I certainly think that Councilmember Wiltz is spot on here. We need to go through the motions. We need to make cuts where we need to make cuts, because the importance is that the hands that have dealt us this blow is going to be here for the next 3 years. In addition, we are just now seeing the national economy start to downturn. If it gets worse, that's an if. I'm not saying that the economy is going to get even worse. If it does get worse, we're going to need things in place in the next 2 to 5 years.
Understood. All right. So, seeing no further question or comments on this particular item, may we please have a roll call vote?
Counselor Feidel?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor Crossley?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you. And so that is all the business that we have for night 5 of our budget work sessions. Again, we have our final budget session, which is tomorrow, September 11th at 5 o'clock. And that one will be a long one. So I hope that we are all to task. We all heard all the things and all the burdensomes, #Thanks Indiana, that we have to do. And so I think we are up to task for it. Again, it's just the idea of having us be in this position to begin with. And so I just ask for all of us to come ready over or tomorrow, the 16th and beyond, to think about what else we need to do, because there's definitely some go backs. So with that being said, I appreciate everybody's thoughts and intentions for tonight, and we are in recess until tomorrow, September 11th. Thank you. Have a good night.